Hendricks Motorsports is probably the biggest team in NASCAR. They attract a large fan base for every single race each year. However, they recently revealed some shocking statements about NASCAR which could be very damaging for the sport. The negotiations for the new charter agreement have been ongoing for the past 2 years. Given that the current agreement is set to expire after this year, NASCAR and the teams will need to finalize the teams as soon as possible. NASCAR gave the teams a deadline of last Friday to sign the agreement. 13 out of the 15 teams on the grid signed the document before the deadline. Hendricks Motorsports was one of them. However, Rick Hendrick has stated that he only signed it because he was just tired. But we'll never get tired of creating some of the best NASCAR news content for all of you. So, to stay updated, just hit that subscribe button and let us take care of the rest. Rick Hendrick is one of the biggest people in the NASCAR world. His cars have won the most races in the sport's history. For a man like this to say that he was just tired, things must be far worse than they seem. There's no doubt that NASCAR is putting pressure on the teams to sign this contract. None of the teams are happy with the proposed charter agreement that was presented by NASCAR. The teams that did sign the agreement have stated that they felt that NASCAR was giving them no choice, and the decision was coerced. The NASCAR representatives made it seem like it was a take-it-or-leave-it kind of offer. At the end of the day, in order to survive, the teams need to be on the grid in NASCAR. RFK has also been vocal on the charter negotiations. The team's owner, Brad Keselowski, has admitted that he too was forced into signing the deal. He further stated, "It's one of these agreements that's only good when everybody's just a little bit jaded. I think there's things obviously we would like to have better, but I think to some degree, there's pieces that we really like, and there's pieces not so much. But it's hard to use the word fair. I don't know if I know what that means." During a recent interview, Jeff Gluck, a reporter for The Athletic, said that some of the team owners had told him that NASCAR coerced and threatened them to sign the contract. "So, 13 of the 15 team owners, not thrilled, but they fall in line," Gluck explained on the teardown. "We have posted a story on The Athletic with a bunch of quotes from various team owners, most of whom did not want to be identified out of fear of retribution. It's been compared to putting a gun to our head," one team owner said. "Communist regime." These are some strong words from the team owners, but these teams signed the contract anyway. But despite the pressure that was put on by NASCAR, two teams, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports, decided to not sign the agreement. Both of these teams felt that NASCAR was not negotiating in good faith and felt that the teams weren't even given enough time to go through and discuss the agreement internally. FRM claimed that NASCAR gave the team a 105-page document at 6 p.m. and expected them to sign by midnight. FRM owner Bob Jenkins was not happy about this at all. "You know, I don't think you can give somebody a 105-page document at 6 o'clock on a Friday night and expect them to sign it by midnight," Jenkins said. "I think it's very unreasonable, and there've been some things that have happened through the negotiation process that, quite frankly, we just don't agree with. And, we're obligated to negotiate in good faith. And we feel like we did, and I don't know that everything on the other side happened that way. But, my hope is that we'll continue the conversation. We'll get it figured out. I don't know that it's necessarily bad. I mean, you think about over the years, there's been a lot of disagreements, and, you learn to just work through them. And as I was saying, I'm friends with those guys. I've been doing this, I think, 17 years now, and I've become friends with Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell and all those guys. So I think we'll figure it all out, hopefully. And, it'll be fine. I'm not that concerned about it." The teams have been negotiating for 2 years now. After these 2 years of negotiations, NASCAR just put the agreement in a 105-page document and asked the teams to sign it within 6 hours. This hardly seems fair. After skipping the deadline, 23XI Racing released the following statement. 23XI decided to not meet a NASCAR-imposed deadline last night to sign charter agreements for its 2-car for 2025 to 2031. 23XI's position, as stated in a letter to NASCAR, is that we did not have an opportunity to fairly bargain for a new charter contract. We notified NASCAR what issues needed to be addressed in writing at the deadline, 23XI said in its Saturday statement. "We are interested in engaging in constructive discussions with NASCAR to address these issues and move forward in a way that comes to a fair resolution. while strengthening the sport we all love. At 2311 Racing, we remain committed to competing at the highest level, while also standing firm in our belief that NASCAR should be governed by fair and equitable practices, the team said Saturday. 2311 Racing has been very vocal about these negotiations, especially Denny Hamlin and Curtis Polk. The teams are very clear on what they want. They want to be valued more by NASCAR. In the current agreement, the teams are getting $5 million each in overall revenue from NASCAR. In the new agreement, the teams will be getting $8.5 million. Despite this increase, the teams have been demanding permanent charters, which will make the teams more independent and not rely on sponsors for revenue. But NASCAR has made it clear that they won't budge on their stance on permanent charters. Charter permanency could make the system akin to a franchise model used in stick-and-ball sports, and NASCAR rejected that conceptually. The teams also want a greater say in rule changes going forward. Eventually, NASCAR did not include the main components that were demanded by the teams on the agreement. This is why 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports decided to not sign the agreement. One of the co-owners of the team, Curtis Polk, gave his thoughts on the new charter agreement. The contract offer took away essential rights, and we believe that all teams, including those who signed, may not have been given a true opportunity to negotiate or fully understand the implications of the contract terms, Polk explained. NASCAR has consistently refused to deal with 2311. These negotiations, we're David facing Goliath, Polk said. NASCAR has superior bargaining power and undue influence over the sport and the charter process. The words Curtis Polk is using here are very suspicious. Essential rights, bargaining power, undue influence, implications of the contract terms. These are all words that you generally hear in a courtroom. So this has raised a doubt. Is 2311 preparing for a legal battle against NASCAR over the charter agreements? But more on that later. Another co-owner of 2311 Racing, Denny Hamlin, said, "I think it's more just a frustration of a lack of acknowledgement that the teams have built this sport. Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs putting superstars on the racetrack. That is what has built the sport," Hamlin said last week during NASCAR Playoffs Media Day. "Fans do not come to see cars going around in circles. If they would, then we would sell out ARCA races, but they don't. They come to sell out on Sunday to watch Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch. So who provides them the cars? And that's the teams. Who spends the money? That's the teams. Whose sponsors go buy a suite? That's the teams. Whose sponsors activate in their midways? That's the teams," he said. "That's the tough part, that they just don't value us." 2311 Racing believes that the majority of the money that is generated through NASCAR races should go to the teams and drivers. The entire country travels across states to watch their favorite drivers and teams race around the circuit. But these teams and drivers are not the ones getting paid. NASCAR is pocketing the majority of the revenue and is only sharing a small percentage with the teams. This is one of Denny Hamlin's main frustrations. But now that 2311 has decided to not sign the agreement, what next? A reporter for The Athletic, Jeff Gluck, has given his take on what's to come for 2311 Racing and NASCAR. If they, 2311, think, "Hey, we can drag NASCAR into court and either get a settlement from this or get NASCAR to make concessions we've been asking for, or take it all the way and change the model of the sport essentially," Gluck explained. "Maybe that's what they're trying to do, and they feel like they're trying to do it for the other teams as well. It's a very, I didn't think it would get to this point. But now, for the first time I'm seeing, this could be a long, protracted battle if this does not come to a head. Because it's not like, I just always thought, okay, December 31st. They have to do it because they're not going to want to lose their charters. They're not going to want to let all this stuff go. Maybe they're willing to walk the plank and see what happens. I don't know. Is that possible?" Until now, NASCAR has ruled under the mentality that they are rulers. They don't want anyone else governing the sport with them. They have always said that NASCAR is a private organization and that the teams can either be a part of it or not. But this mentality does not work in today's world. Considering the significance of NASCAR to the world, 2311 can get into a legal battle with NASCAR over this. NASCAR basically coerced the teams into signing the contract. So if 2311 gets into a legal battle, NASCAR will have to open up their books and reveal all their secrets. NASCAR may not be willing to do this, hence we can expect NASCAR to cave in and properly renegotiate with the teams and come to agreements over a new contract. In the renegotiations, 2311 Racing and the teams will be looking for some better terms to give them governance over the rules and regulation changes as well. End of the day, the fans are buying tickets to see the teams and drivers. So it's in NASCAR's best interest to keep those teams on the grid and happy. Do you think NASCAR is fairly negotiating with the teams over the new charter agreement? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.